This morning's press conference was the first by the GSD to reveal policy details from their manifesto. Keith Azopardi says that with public contracts worth thousands or sometimes millions of taxpayer pounds, it was important to have the right controls in place. He described the party's 24-point plan to tackle corruption as a central issue in this campaign.
Public administration is about politicians having use and management of public expenditure, the money of the people, on sacred trust. There needs to be better control, supervision and performance of all these matters.
This morning, Keith Azopardi and Roy Clinton summarised some of the main points, among them setting up a public inquiry on anti-corruption.
It will look at the performance of contracts, land deals, and it will look at systems to make recommendations so as to improve the system of allocation of contracts, the performance of contracts, and so on, to ensure that we have in place the best and most robust systems of control on anti-corruption.
The inquiry could be chaired by an independent silk from the UK bar or a judge assisted by forensic accountants.
If that inquiry should uncover wrongdoing, it will be pursued.
The GSD also says if elected into government, its finance minister would examine, scrutinise and tear down the jungle of companies that the GSLP has set up. The GSD says there's almost £1 billion that has been parked out of the budget book, and that it would also launch an investigation and audit of public monies spent through government-owned companies.
The jungle of companies, the real thing that's causing me problems now, is the one that Sir Joe has set up for his National Economic Plan. These are entities under a charity which are not even owned by the government, so they've taken it to the next level. It's not even about companies owned by government or the Gibraltar Development Corporation or that web. Now there's a whole shadow government outside the control of Parliament and government, of which we have no visibility. And yet it's borrowing money, not from the government, but from the savings bank. And when I've asked in Parliament, well, where does X give the money to Y to Z? In the middle, Sir Joe refuses to answer. He says, I'm not telling you. It's too much detail. You're asking too much information. I said, well, look, I'm just following the money. I mean, what is so wrong in knowing how the money goes from A to Z? It's normal. But the problem is that we have this entity running his National Economic Plan, which is outside the control of government. If for any reason any government came in and, say, for sake of argument, they were sat on millions of pounds of profits, how does that government get that money out?
The GSD's anti-abuse law would also revise who can apply for public contracts.
It will create different categories of people. Some people will be prohibited from applying for certain contracts if they are too close to the political party in government. Some people will be controlled persons, in other words, not prohibited from applying for contracts, but will need to declare conflicts of interest if those arise.
GSD leader Keith Azopardi says he would lead a government who would put rules in place so as to lose power.
We want to legislate as our legacy to ensure that greater accountability and that future governments lose power, including the one that I am the leader of.